This is a play test on War Thunder. New way of testing. Basically made a custom battle, so all the enemies are pretty much going to be bots, all the people on my side are going to be bots, but at least I can keep the same map, and if I do say 4 playthroughs I can keep everything fairly consistent. And basically I'm putting this i5 4670K that's overclocked to 4.5 gigahertz through its paces. On this game we're at 4K high settings, running a GTX1070 with an overclock on it. I'm going to run it like this with the V-Sync on, so you can see what percentages of the card and CPU are being used, but what sort of temperatures we're getting. This is with a closed case. I have turned the fan profile up a bit as well on the card, but the I've got one, and the CPU's running on a liquid cooler external on the case with a single fairly slow fan, to be honest with you. But my plan is I'll do this and then I'll play the same battle again, but this next time with the V-Sync turned off. I'll play it with the V-Sync turned off, and then I shall use Dell Optiplex. Use Dell Optiplex with same graphics card settings and everything, but the difference will be obviously it's the Optiplex, you can't overclock it, and I'll do the same again, V-Sync on, V-Sync off, and we'll see how the two compare. But I mean, this graphics card on this game, if you're locking the frame rate to 60 FPS, which this particular screen is, it'll play that all day long 4K. If you do put it on the maximum settings, it does get a little bit too much for it. I'm going to try. I don't know how good these AIs are. So yeah, I mean, this is a full-on bot lobby. Okay, this is the final test. Back on the i7, 4K, no V-Sync this time. Exactly the same settings and everything as before. Core 4K again, just the same high settings. You can see that the CPU's running quite a bit hotter on this. Graphics card might be running slightly cooler. I think this case probably has a little bit better airflow in it. I will say the game possibly looks a little bit smoother, not really sure. I mean, this is VSync on, obviously. We'll have to wait until we've got VSync off as well to see how we go then. There wasn't actually that much difference in the 1% and 0.1% lows between VSync on and off with the other computer. I think the reason it was stuttering is because if you've got more frames on a screen than the machine, sorry, than the screen can handle, you will end up with just that little bit of This is match number 2. This time there's no VSync on. Settings and everything, fan profile, all exactly the same as the first one. Literally just turn the VSync off. For me, I don't think this is playing quite as smooth, despite the fact that we've got a higher average frame rate. You can see the lows are probably a bit lower. Obviously graphics card's going to be working harder, so that heat's going to go up a lot more. CPU's working a lot harder. So I personally think whatever you do, you really do need to sort of work out what a good frame rate is for the card to not be flipping blowing its guts out everywhere. So probably with how this is playing now, looking at how it's gone, I'll probably say I'd lock it to about 75 or something like that. If I was on a fast screen. The temperature ain't gone up higher. Quite know what they're looking at. Oh, they're looking over there. Right, well, in conclusion, from playing with these two processors or systems, with VSync on, VSync off, I would say for me the i7 with the VSync on seemed to be the best. Overall, just seemed a little bit smoother, but looking at the numbers and the video playback, I'm not really sure there's a lot of difference. It's a close run. I mean, the advantages for the i7 is it's got more cores, and when it comes to the video playback in general on most games, having them it's not got more cores, more threads, having them extra threads generally does seem to make it work a lot better on your videos. And what I have noticed between these two systems, particularly as they're playing in 4K and the actual recording's done in 4K on the Nvidia Experience app, and I'm guessing it works out all the settings to keep the quality and everything of the recording, but the file size with the i7 for say about 15 minutes was coming out just over 3 gigabytes, or 3.2, with the i5 for the same recording sort of time on this game, you were getting about 5 gigabytes, 5.2. So I mean that's a 40% bigger file for essentially the same recording and quality. So I don't know if that is the hardware affecting that, or if just on that particular game there was more going on. But I would imagine that having more threads, and it's got more cache memory and things, I would say that'd help keep your file size down on your recordings. But that said, the two systems cost roughly about the same to build, 325 quid if you take out any aesthetic modifications, and the custom build has got the advantage that if you stick that 470k in there, you're going to be able to overclock that to at least 4.2 gigahertz, and that's going to be the way superior machine. So, you know, it's just exercise in just comparing initially what are you better off doing, having a really fast i5 machine that you can overclock with quality motherboard, or just having a chip that you can't overclock in something like a Dell Optiplex. There's pluses and minuses to both systems. If you're really not into overclocking and tweaking or doing anything at all, I would probably say that the Dell Optiplex is the better system, because you'd have to buy yourself probably a nice case and things like that. So yeah, it just depends what stuff's around at the time, what you can get for what price. But I would say at the moment, for most people, for £300 to £350, these two systems are fairly typical of what you're going to be able to get if you're using a Haswell. And this is the sort of performance you're going to get. And to be honest, on this particular game, there's not a lot to choose between the two. But if I had to pick one of them to be my main system out of the two, if I only played War Thunder, and bear in mind I do tend to build computers just to play a single game quite often and get the best performance possible, I would say that the i7 takes the win. So there you go. I hope this video's helped people, and if you was wondering why I tend to not do lots of games in one video, is because I do tend to build stuff to work well on one particular game at a time. That's what I've tended to do with most of my upgrades. I've done them because whatever it was I was playing wasn't playing well enough, so I've upgraded purposefully to do that. And also, if you take notice, the frame rate, like here, it's bouncing around a little bit because there's a lot going on. So if you're watching someone's video where there's a bit of a split screen and they're just running around on a basic path or something and not a lot's happening, that's not really a true representation of how that system's going to perform through the game. Whereas you can see here, that was just dropping to like 43 FPS. That's probably as bad as it's ever going to get on this game. So you're getting a true representation of what this i5 is going to be like on high settings, 4K, and bear in mind it is recording at 4K at the same time. If you weren't recording, then obviously there'd be a lot less stress on the system, so you probably wouldn't get the frame drops. But anyway, hope this helps someone who's thinking about building a cheap system or second system for the kids or something. If you like the video, please like it, and I will keep sort of throwing up more tests, different games and hardware. And yeah, thank you very much for watching this far.